Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about strong verbs that you can use to express a belief, an agreement, or a disagreement, and recommendations. So let's take a look at some of the example from verbs for making a claim. Oftentimes, we tend to use the everyday-ish verb like to say or to state, but there are other verbs that are stronger, more robust, okay, than to say or state. For example, argue, insist, okay, observe, okay. Verbs to express agreement, okay. Besides agree, of course, acknowledge, we can use celebrate the fact that, okay, that necessarily uh, changes the sentence into at least a complex sentence, okay, or corroborate or reaffirm. Now, verbs for questioning or disagreeing, besides to disagree, we have complain, okay, we have reject, we have at the more formal end, renounce and repudiate. Okay, these are pretty strong verbs. And then verbs for making recommendations. Usually we make recommendations toward the end of the essay. So we have exhort, we have demand, okay, we have urge, we have warn. These are pretty red-blooded verbs. Okay. Or we can use advocate. In fact, advocate can also be used to make a claim. All right, let's take a look at the chapter 2. Her point is the art of summarizing, and it's taken from They Say, I Say, 5th edition. This is chapter 2. So the criteria for writing an objective and accurate summary. So this is more like the mindset to get into when you sit down to write a summary. The first thing to bear in mind is to suspend or delay your belief or disbelief, right? Because you want to give the writer the stage. Okay, you want to be true to what the writer says. So you want to play the what Peter Elbow calls the believing game. The second point is you also want to suspend your preconceived notions on the topic. Okay? Uh, so so this really ties in with the first criterion. Okay? I've seen students who turn the author's argument around so the summary ends up expressing the student's view on the topic instead of the writer's view. And it's called the closest cliche syndrome. The next thing, the next criterion to keep in mind when you summarize is to make sure that you're never writing a summary just for the sake of writing a summary. It doesn't exist as a separate entity. It actually sets up your argument. Okay? So you summarize the author's argument and then you respond to, say, an aspect of the argument. So there's some logical connection between the summary, okay, and your argument. So the they say sets up your say. So what then should a good summary not be? Well, it shouldn't be something like this. Author X says many different things on his topic. First he says, then he makes, so on and so forth. So first of all, let's kind of let's unpack it for a while. Do we see a viewpoint expressed by the author from what we have here? We don't. We see what the author has said, right? Many things, but we really don't know what his point is on these many things. Or are these different things organized around uh, an argument? Okay. So this kind of summary is just like a laundry list. Yeah, it doesn't give the reader who's not familiar with the source an idea what the author's argument is, much less what the student's response is to that argument. Next, I want to talk about signal phrase because there's some confusion on what it means. Okay, signal phrase is sort of like you're putting up a sign saying this is, you know, somebody else's voice or viewpoint. So, for example, if a piece is written by two authors, so you introduce the authors, first name, last name, yeah. And here I bolded the entire signal phrase. I use the word advocate. Advocate, remember from the first slide, it can be used uh, to 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 state a claim. Okay, so authors X and Y advocate a radical revision of the juvenile justice systems. This in itself is actually a summary sentence. Okay, it's really brief. Um, okay, so these are the elements of the mindset to be familiar with whenever you write a summary in an argument. Okay, if you have any questions, drop me a line, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.